My name's Derek. I'm 46. Never had kids of my own, and by now I know why. Because fatherhood, real fatherhood, is a thankless kind of dying. 6 years ago, I met Laura in line at a tire shop. My card had been declined, hers hadn't. She offered to cover me, smiling like she'd done it before. There was something steady in her eyes. Someone who knew what it meant to carry weight, or at least wear the bruises left by someone else's grip. We dated for 5 months before I met her kids. Zach and Haley. Teenagers. One 16, the other 14. Their father, Jason, had bailed a long time ago, moved states away. Calls became texts. Texts became silence. He sent cards on birthdays. Some years. When he remembered. When I first stepped into their house, I thought I was doing something noble. A man stepping up where another had stepped out. I told myself love was enough. That presence mattered more than blood. That if I gave enough time, money, patience, they'd come to see me not just as the man who paid for things, but as the man who stayed. But from the very beginning, there was distance. Zach barely looked up from his phone. He said, "Cool," when I showed him the new tires I'd bought for Laura's car. Haley asked if I was staying over again. Like I was some house guest overstaying my welcome. I paid for dinner that night. They didn't thank me. Over the next few months, that became the rhythm. I'd show up. I'd pay. I'd fix. I'd stay silent. And they gave me nothing in return. We moved in together after a year. Laura's lease was ending, and I had a house on the outskirts of Phoenix. A fixer-upper I'd bought after my mother passed. It had good bones. Just needed someone to care about it. Just like them. I cleared out rooms. Painted walls. Replaced Haley's door with one that locked because she said she didn't feel safe without it. I got Zach a standing desk for his back problems, then took 2 extra shifts a week to cover it. When his truck broke down, I paid the mechanic in full. When Haley cried about being the only girl at her dance not wearing brand names, I took her to the mall and let her pick out what she wanted. I said yes too much. I thought they'd see me. Eventually, they never did. They never introduced me as their stepdad. Just my mom's boyfriend. Never looked to me when things went wrong, only when things cost money. They never asked about my job, never wondered where the money came from. They just expected it. A few months in, I tried to set boundaries. Asked them to clean their dishes after dinner. Haley rolled her eyes. Zach laughed under his breath. "I'm not doing chores for someone who's not even my dad," Zach said. Laura heard it. She was in the kitchen, drying a plate. She paused for a second, then kept drying. Didn't say a word. That was the first hairline crack. The kind you don't feel until the structure shifts. Still, I kept trying. 3 years in, Haley needed braces. Her insurance didn't cover them. Jason didn't return Laura's calls. I took out a credit line and signed the paperwork. Haley didn't say thank you. She just complained about the tightness, about how they looked too shiny. That same month, Zach failed his math class. I hired a tutor, paid him out of pocket. A month later, Zach got a B. He didn't thank me either. He just told his friends, "My mom hired some math guy, not Derek. Not the man who took on more freelance contracts just to afford the damn sessions. Just some math guy." By the 4th year, I stopped believing they'd change. I stopped waiting for a Father's Day card. But I didn't stop paying. I told myself they were just kids. That resentment was part of adolescence. That I was building something long-term, even if I couldn't see it yet. But the weight never lifted. Every time I saw Jason's name on a hospital intake form, every time a school counselor called and asked if I was the legal guardian, every time I opened my wallet and watched money spill out for kids who wouldn't say my name, something in me chipped away. Laura, for her part, said little. She thanked me when it was convenient, brushed off their comments when they were cruel. She played peacekeeper, which really meant she played absent. I remember the first time I asked her if she'd ever make them acknowledge what I did. She blinked. "I mean, they're teenagers, Derek. They don't know how to show appreciation. You're not their dad. That's complicated." I asked her what I was then. She didn't answer. That silence said more than she ever did. 6 years of silence. 6 years of unspoken roles. 6 years of being a provider, never a parent. Then came that night. We were eating together, Laura, Zach, Haley, me. Lasagna. Store-bought. I picked it up on the way home from work. Everyone was quiet, faces lit by the glow of their phones. I asked Zach how school was going. He didn't answer right away, just kept scrolling. Then he looked up at me, and for the first time in a long time he held my gaze. We don't owe you anything, but you still give us everything. Then he went back to eating, like it was a compliment. Laura looked away. Haley smirked, and something inside me, something old, something tired, collapsed. It was like watching a bridge snap midspan, not with a crash, just a slow unraveling, bolts loosening, cables fraying. I don't remember finishing my food. I don't remember what I said. Maybe nothing. But that night I opened a spreadsheet. Line by line, I listed every dollar, every receipt, every expense. Braces, $3,200. Zach's used Tacoma, $6,500. Haley's iPhone, $1,000. Dance lessons, therapy, AP classes, laptops, headphones, birthday parties, gas money, repairs, bailouts. Total, $31,742.88. And that was just what I could trace. I stared at that number for hours, drank 2 fingers of bourbon, stared some more. If they believed they owed me nothing, maybe it was time I agreed. The next morning I told Laura, calm, controlled. I'll keep paying for the house, the food, the utilities. But everything else, school, tech, cars, dances, sports, that's Jason's problem now. She looked at me like I'd told her the sun was turning off. You can't just pull back now. They're in the middle of high school. They need stability. They have it. Food, shelter, lights that turn on. What about their other needs? I shrugged. They said I'm not their father, that I'm just someone who gives. She went quiet, like she was realizing the price of every excuse she'd made. I left for work an hour later. She didn't kiss me goodbye. That night, I slept better than I had in weeks. The silence didn't last long. It never does in a house that feeds on expectations. 3 days after I told Laura I was stepping back, she broke the quiet over dinner. Zach had asked for new cleats. His were worn down and tryouts were in a week. I didn't answer, just kept eating. Haley asked if I'd remembered the ticket money for her school play. I took a sip of water. Laura filled the silence like always. I'll see what I can do, she said. Her voice carried that sharp edge, like I was being difficult just for breathing. That night, she cornered me in the bedroom. This isn't working. No, I said. It hasn't worked in a long time. You can't just stop providing. I didn't stop. I adjusted. For what? Some principle? She snapped. They're teenagers. You're punishing them for not loving you the way you want. I didn't reply, because she wasn't wrong. Not entirely. But that didn't make me wrong either. They'd made it clear. I wasn't their father. I was a machine. A coin slot. A fixture in the wall that spit out what they needed and never spoke back. So I shut the machine down. A week later, Laura did something she hadn't done in years. She called Jason. She waited until I'd left for work, then dialed his number. I know because I checked the call log. We'd shared a phone plan, another thing I paid for. She asked him to step up, told him the kids needed help. Shoes, recital fees, gas money. He promised he'd try. He didn't. Not that week. Not the week after. Zach started missing practice. Haley canceled her hair appointment before the dance. They didn't ask me. They asked Laura. And every time she came to me, soft voice, patient tone, I gave her the same answer. Ask their dad. First, she argued. Then she stopped. And that's when I saw it. The realization creeping into the edges of their expressions. Not panic. Not yet. Just confusion. The kind that settles in when a system starts to fail, and no one knows who to blame. One night, Haley got a package. I watched her bring it in, tear the box open on the living room floor. Inside, a stiff purple dress and a purse that looked like it came from a gas station clearance rack. There was a note, handwritten. I only caught part of it because she read it out loud. Sorry I can't help more. But at least you've got a man who takes care of you. He's a good guy. Be grateful. I laughed so hard I nearly choked. That bastard hadn't paid for more than a happy meal in the last 6 years. And now he wanted credit for my labor. Laura heard me laugh. Asked what was funny. I said, "It's cute. Your ex wants to be remembered as a provider, now that the bills come due." She didn't respond. Zach came downstairs later, eyes hard. Said he didn't think it was fair, Haley getting something from Dad, and him getting nothing. I didn't blink. Talk to your dad. He won't answer. Not my problem. Took a few more days, but the mood in the house turned. Sharp. Brittle. Dinner became quiet. No more demands, just side eyes. Passive sighs. Long stares. I became a ghost in my own home. But I was already used to that. What changed was the weight. It stopped crushing me. Because finally, I wasn't giving anything I didn't owe. That's when Laura tried again. She came into the garage where I was sorting old tools. Said we needed to talk. I wiped my hands on a rag and waited. She said the kids were feeling abandoned. That they didn't understand why I was pulling away. That it wasn't fair to make them suffer just because they weren't affectionate. I asked her a simple question. Do you remember what Zach said at dinner? She didn't answer. So I said it for her. We don't owe you anything, but you still give us everything. She flinched. Yeah, I said. I believed him. That night I made the decision. The real one. Not just to stop providing. To stop existing for them altogether. I started boxing things. Slowly. Quietly. Every gift I'd bought them that still lived under my roof. Zach's Xbox. His wireless headphones. The backup phone I bought him when his screen cracked. The hoodie from that overpriced store he loved. Haley's laptop. Her curling wand. The Beats headphones she wore everywhere. Each item got a sticky note. Gifted by stepdad. The one you owe nothing to. Laura found me packing one of the boxes in the guest room. What are you doing? Returning investments. She stepped closer, face pale. That's insane. These are their things. No, I said. They were mine. Gifts. Which means I can take them back. That's petty. No. Petty is what you let them become. She didn't follow me when I rented the U-Haul. Didn't help me load it. Didn't say goodbye when I drove off. I called Jason. Told him I was delivering his children's belongings. Said he should clear a spot on the porch. He stammered. Sorry. This really isn't a good time. I smiled. Neither were the last 6 years. I parked at the curb. Dragged the boxes up to the porch. Neatly stacked. Labeled. Ordered. Then I handed him a folder. Inside, every receipt. He opened it, eyebrows rising. Jesus. Might want to read the fine print. I left before he could respond. 2 hours later, Laura called. Crying. Jason said he had no space. No budget. No plan. The kids were crying. She asked me to come back. Said this was getting out of hand. That I'd made my point. I listened. And for the first time in years I didn't feel anger. I felt peace. A kind of stillness I hadn't known since before I moved them into my life. I told her, I spent 6 years reconsidering. I'm done reconsidering. Then I blocked her. The next day, my house was quieter than it had ever been. Not because they were gone, but because the weight of being unacknowledged, unwanted, and indispensable had finally been put down. It felt like breathing in after being underwater too long. I thought maybe that would be the end of it. But regret always knocks late. It took exactly 9 days before the first email landed. Subject line, tuition status, urgent. I didn't open it. I didn't need to. I already knew what it was about. Zach had been accepted to Arizona State on early admission. I filled out the FAFSA, applied for a parent loan in my name, paid the first deposit before he even picked his major. He never thanked me. Not once. Just handed me the housing packet like I was the help. Now, the first payment was due again. But my name was off the account. I'd removed it the morning after I blocked Laura. Let Jason figure it out. Let the man who shared their blood share their burdens. I sat in the living room that afternoon, The same chair I used to sink into after work, back when I believed effort earned equity. I drank coffee slowly. No TV. No music. Just the sound of my own breathing, finally unburdened by other people's wants. By that evening, the calls began. First from a number I didn't recognize. Then Laura. Then Zach. None were answered. 2 days later, they showed up. I was trimming the hedges in the front yard when the same rusted sedan Jason drove pulled into my driveway. It had mismatched hubcaps and a cracked passenger window. Like everything else he owned, it barely held together under the illusion of function. Out they came, Laura first, then Zach and Haley. I didn't stop trimming. Laura approached slowly, arms crossed. "Can we talk?" I looked up. "About what?" "You know what." I shut off the trimmer. "Then no." Haley spoke next. Her voice was softer than I remembered. "Why are you doing this?" I turned to face them. "I'm not doing anything. I stopped doing." Zach stepped forward, eyes sharp. "You're ruining my life." I almost laughed. Instead, I said, "I let you build one on my back. You didn't seem to mind when the bricks were free. You said you'd help with college. That was before you clarified I wasn't your father. Now it's Jason's turn." Laura's face twisted. "You can't just abandon them." "I didn't. I gave them everything. They abandoned me long before I stepped away." The silence that followed wasn't sad. It was stunned. Like they were finally seeing the line I'd drawn. Not out of anger, but clarity. Then Zach exploded. "You're bitter. Just admit it. You're mad we didn't call you Dad. So now you're punishing us." I took a step forward, voice low. "I didn't want a title. I wanted truth. And the truth is, you didn't see me. You used me. And when I stopped giving, you acted like I'd betrayed you. You want to know what betrayal looks like? 6 years of silence while I paid to be invisible." Laura looked at the ground. Haley's lip trembled. Zach didn't move. I opened the garage and went back inside. They didn't follow. The next morning, there was an envelope under my door. No return address. Just a handwritten note. "We need help. Please. I know things got ugly, but they're kids, and they're scared. Please reconsider." There was no signature. Didn't need one. I folded the note and placed it next to my receipts. That week, more letters came. From ASU. From Haley's school. Even a notice about the unpaid therapy bill from 2 months prior. All addressed to me. All assuming I was still responsible. That was the world's mistake. Responsibility isn't a birthright. It's a choice. And I had chosen. 3 days later, I answered a call. It was Jason. "Listen," he began. "I know things have gotten tense." I said nothing. He cleared his throat. "Laura said you dropped off the kids' stuff. That you've been pulling out of things." "You mean obligations?" I said. "I returned them to where they came from. That would be you." A pause. Then, "I can't cover college. I barely make rent. I'm behind on my own car." "Then you shouldn't have had kids you weren't ready for." He tried a different angle. "They're not bad kids. They're just confused. They need time." "They had 6 years," I said. "Time ran out." I hung up. The following Monday, I got another knock at the door. This time it was Haley. Alone. She stood on the porch holding a manila folder. Her hair was pulled back. No makeup. Just a teenager stripped of all her defense mechanisms. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. "I wrote something," she said. She handed me the folder and turned to leave. I didn't stop her. Inside was a letter. Handwritten. Careful. Precise. "I didn't understand how much you were doing. I thought it was normal. I thought we were owed it. I was wrong. I see you now. I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know." I read it once. Then again. Then I placed it next to the note from Laura and the receipts. Not for revenge. Not for evidence. Just for memory. Zach didn't write. Jason didn't call again. Laura sent 2 more messages. I didn't reply. I stopped tracking what they owed. Debt was never the point. This wasn't about money. It was about the rot that grows in a home where love is taken and never returned. Where silence is weaponized. where kindness is expected but never repaid. For years, I thought patience would fix things, that if I just waited, they'd come around. What a fool's gamble. Because the truth is, some families are built on hope. Others are built on habits. And mine was built on me. But now it isn't. And for the first time in years, that feels like freedom. It's been 3 weeks since I heard from any of them. 3 weeks of quiet mornings and evenings that don't end in slammed doors. The house feels too big, but in a way that's almost merciful. I can hear my own footsteps again. The hum of the refrigerator. The sound of rain against the windows. Silence has a texture now, rough but honest. I started sleeping on the couch, not because I had to, but because it feels like neutral ground. The bed still smells like Laura's perfume, and every time I walk past it, I feel that old pressure in my chest. The kind that whispers, "You gave your best years to people who never looked up from their plates." It doesn't sting anymore. It just echoes. I kept working, though. There's something about motion that keeps regret from settling too deep. My coworkers ask why I look lighter. I tell them I've been cutting weight. They laugh, not knowing how close to the truth that is. Last Monday, I came home to find something in the mailbox. A small envelope, my name written in handwriting I recognized, Haley's. I stood there for a long time before opening it. I didn't want to. I already knew what it would say. Inside was a folded piece of paper and a Polaroid. The photo was from last Christmas. We were sitting on the couch. Me in a ridiculous sweater Laura bought. Haley beside me. Zach leaning back with that practice smirk. Laura behind us, smiling like we were something whole. Underneath the photo, Haley had written, "I didn't understand how much you were doing. I thought it was normal. I thought we were owed it. I was wrong. I see you now. I'm sorry." Same words she'd written before, but this time they were under our faces. I sat down at the kitchen table and stared at it until the daylight faded. For a second, I thought about writing back. Just a short note. "I forgive you." But I couldn't. Not because I was angry. I wasn't. I was simply done. Some apologies aren't meant to reopen doors. They're meant to close them quietly without slamming. I slipped the photo into the folder with the receipts and letters. My strange archive of transactions, emotional and financial alike. Each paper a reminder of what giving without recognition looks like. That night, I poured myself a drink and walked through the house. Room by room. Zach's old room still smelled like his cologne. Cheap, heavy, stubborn. His posters still hung crooked on the wall, corners curling. Haley's room was neater. She'd taken most of her things, but a single hair clip sat on the dresser, like a small apology left behind. In the hallway, I stopped by the family photo Laura insisted on hanging when we moved in. Her idea of togetherness. In it, I'm smiling. So are they. But if you look closely, you can see the distance, the space between us, invisible but enormous. The space between blood and obligation. I took the frame down, set it face down on the floor. Then I sat in the living room and let the quiet stretch out until it felt almost like music. I thought about Jason, about how he must be handling things now. The man who wanted credit for my labor, who wanted the title without the cost. Maybe he's seeing what fatherhood looks like when the safety net disappears. Maybe he's remembering that dad is more than a word you sign on birthday cards. And Laura, I don't know. Maybe she still tells people I overreacted, that I let pride win. Maybe she tells herself I punished the children. Maybe she believes it. But the truth is simpler. I stopped financing my own erasure. That's all. I've heard people say that love is unconditional. That's a lie told by those who've never been bled dry. Real love needs recognition. It needs reciprocity. Otherwise, it becomes servitude. Quiet, smiling servitude dressed up as patience. And I was patient for 6 years. Too patient. I used to think walking away was cruelty. Now I know staying too long can be worse. It teaches people that taking has no consequence. It teaches them that love can be mined until there's nothing left but guilt and receipts. Tonight, I stood on the back porch. The air smelled like rain and dirt and freedom. Somewhere down the block, a dog barked, and for a moment I imagined the house alive again. Zach yelling over a video game, Haley singing off-key upstairs, Laura calling everyone to dinner. It was almost comforting. Almost. But then I remembered the way they looked at me the night it all ended. Like I was the villain in a story they'd written together. That memory keeps me honest. I finished my drink and looked out over the yard. The grass was long. The tools were rusting. I didn't care. The world could decay a little. It deserved to rest, same as me. Before heading in, I took out my phone and opened Haley's letter again. Read it one more time, slow. Each word softer than I remembered. She's growing up, I thought. Learning what most people never do. That comfort has a price, and someone always pays it. I put the phone away and turned off the porch light. There's a freedom in not being needed anymore. A hollow kind, sure, but still freedom. I've started to think maybe this is what peace actually looks like. Not joy, not closure. Just stillness. Sometimes, late at night, I catch myself whispering questions to the dark. The kind that don't need answers. Was I wrong to stop paying? Was I cruel to choose self-respect over obligation? Or did I finally do what any man should do when the house he built refuses to call him home? I don't know. Maybe I never will. But I do know this. Silence is not the same as emptiness. Sometimes it's just the sound of a man reclaiming his life. Tomorrow I'll go through the boxes in the garage. Maybe I'll sell the extra tools. Maybe I'll keep them. Doesn't matter. What matters is that, for the first time in years, everything in this house belongs to me. Every dollar, every object, every breath. I'll keep the folder in the desk drawer. Not as proof. Not as bitterness. Just as a ledger of what it costs to be taken for granted. And maybe someday, when I'm old and gray, I'll take it out again. I'll look at that Polaroid. I'll remember the house full of noise and need. And maybe I'll smile. Not because I missed them, but because I survived them. So tell me, was I wrong to stop being their father the moment they said I wasn't? Was I heartless to make them learn what nothing really feels like? Or was this the only way to finally teach them that love, like money, runs out when you forget who's paying?